First one after coming back to Switzerland. Was missing it for 2 months.
Well, I hope it was enjoyable. We've got a couple Santiment members with us who wanted to join for the webinar. We may have a few more, we may not, but I'm excited to kick this webinar off and talk a little bit about lending and borrowing, the DeFi aspect of Santiment and what it all entails. So if you guys are ready, Maksim and Maksim, I can share my screen. We can go off of some of the tabs that are prepared at any time. Feel free to feed some more links our way. We'll put anything on screen. And for those who are guests, feel free to drop in chat any questions you may have, okay? Yeah, please, David.
Yeah, I also want to add that this is like a very, very small exclusive webinar. So feel free to like raise your hand and interject with questions and really, you know, leverage us. We're here for you. We want you to learn how to use the platform better. We want to learn what also your pain points are in general. So happy to interact more than a typical online call, like the Friday calls.
Well said. Yep. So I've pulled up a couple Academy pages here that kind of go over the basics of DeFi lending and borrowing, as well as kind of a lending pool overview. I'm going to kind of summarize what we have here just to give an overview of how these metrics work. So this page explains that DeFi lending and borrowing are essentially blockchain-based platforms that allow individuals to lend and borrow without the need for traditional finance intermediaries such as banks. They utilize smart contracts, which are self-executing code on a blockchain to automate the lending and borrowing process and enforce the terms of the agreement between parties. On these DeFi platforms, users can lend their digital assets to other users and earn interest on their deposits. You're probably roughly familiar with this, but this really does give a nice deep overview of it. Conversely, borrowers can use these digital assets as collateral to obtain loans in the form of stablecoins or other cryptos. DeFi lending and borrowing protocols typically offer more flexibility, accessibility, and transparency than traditional finance and allow users to participate in the global financial system without the need for intermediaries or extensive paperwork. However, they also carry additional risk, such as smart contract vulnerabilities and market volatility. And I would also mention things like liquidations and things like that, which especially come from leverage trading, things of that nature. Now I open up to the other two Maxims here. What kind of, if someone is first getting into DeFi lending and borrowing, what's the first thing that you may suggest they would want to know?
Well, it's also the purpose of our talk today for small closed community, or let's say, how do you call it?
Exclusive?
Yes, I was looking. What was the best word? Yeah. The usage of these protocols is twofold. One, of course, you can participate as a user of these protocols. You can put as collateral, mean something, or lend, what we do with our treasury too, quite often. And the second usage, which we'll be talking about, is during our exclusive webinar. When you process the data and you start building metric on top of it, maybe some of you are already familiar with this, you start seeing through the noise of many conversations, activity, quite a clear picture of money market. Yeah? There is established, not for hundreds, for thousands of years in traditional finance, money market, how much you can borrow it from a government, or how much you can deposit with banks. And in crypto, it is almost the same. The only thing, it's much more transparent. You see a lot more data. And because market moves faster, the value of money, if analyzed properly, can be used to manage your portfolio. This is the main purpose we're here. I use personally. I know some other team members using it. We want to share some ways how we utilize this metrics to manage our portfolios. And honestly, to my surprise, I have not seen yet anyone talking openly about if even once you look into the data correctly collected, more or less nicely visualized, you see quite a few things. So we'll talk about what you can see with this data, concept like value of money, concept of blood on the street through the lens of liquidations. Yeah. So this is for me how I see the scope of our organization. I don't know, Maksim, Kachuk, if you want to add something.
No, that's pretty much perfect summary. But as always, the devil is in the details.
Yes, the devil is in the details. True. So, Brian, I know that you've prepared, or at least I sent some links. Yes. Oh, this is actually my chat there. So in Academy, there is a detailed description, definition, how we build the metric. And here, visualize dashboard, or my set of charts, chart layout. For me personally, how I use it, even with the text explaining a few things. I think I keep it too personal, because I still see so far 0 comments and 0 rockets, which is unusual. Typically when I share something, there are enough rockets, not in this case. Maybe it's a good. Few things before we go into too much details. What I observed so far, and it's been 2 cycles, at least 2 cycles, experience directly. There are a few metrics we need to pay attention to. They can reveal an early indicators of overheated conditions and early indicators when market gets very cold and chill. And the market moves between these 2 extremes. Overheated, what is overheated? Demand for money. For stable coins, people who are borrowing them for many different, or quite a few, it's not so many, but quite a few purposes. Some just do automated leverage in decentralized trade, so you don't need to go to exchange. So there's always risk of exchange going past, or whatever, they cut you off, or they do KYC, you cannot do anything. There are dozens of reasons why people, me including, avoid dealing with centralized exchanges. So you do everything through DEX, and through DEX you can do it. You deposit wrap BTC or Ethereum, you borrow some stablecoin, you buy again wrap BTC, Ethereum, you put collateral, you borrow again. So you can go leverage long. You can do it automatically. There are platforms who simplify this process too, like Gearbox. Our good friends from Gearbox, they allow you to do this. So, and when this demand for stablecoin becomes strong or spikes so much that those who borrow ready to pay you yield, which becomes how to say, irrational, unreasonable, we'll get into overheated condition. And Brian, if you scroll down a little bit, the first chart shows just like this. You can increase it. So there are a few lines on it. Maybe you can hide, this DAI in and USDC total stable supply. Yeah, just hide this. Okay. So then there will be green line is price of Ethereum, and blue, and actually also remove this red one. It's an interesting data point. I mean, hide it here. Good. So there's only one blue. It's the price of the money. Price of the money, how much you will get if you deposit your DAI into DAI stable rate, or nowadays there is Sky saving rate, risk-free. And on the top you get now, last top was 11.5%. The previous top was, the previous cycle was 14 or 50%. It's Yeah, you can go. Oh yeah, you can increase it. Yeah.
Here's the past 4 years, yeah.
It doesn't exist a long time. So you can narrow down, so it's maybe easier to see. Yeah.
We'll do the last 2.5 years.
Yes, this way introduced. So the previous stop was actually, it was 15. Yeah, 15,15.
Oh, this one over here, yeah.
Yeah. So the community who is running DAO, they see the market demand conditions, and it's actually necessary. Otherwise, it can be a little bit detect, or you lose some profits, or actually you lose some competition to other protocols because people move there. So it represents, in a way, a combination of both how people who get together in a DAO community vote and how they perceive market demand on a quite a big scale. So once you see, let's say, 3x from Fed rate, very hot market. Yeah, this time it took a few hikes, but we got there to a level of 15%. So it's a hot market, and I don't know, it's anecdotal or what it coincides precisely with the top. They increase the rate, and 1 day later, top is in. And this one, it's a hot hit of the market. If you close this, yeah, you will see hit scroll a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. Narrow down to 1 year. Otherwise, it's too many lines. So this orange spike in lines, actually there are 2 lines. Pink is amount of USDC supplied on our nowadays probably the most safest and established, I would say, our version 2, especially 3. So it's a very good proxy. And amount of supplied, and it's not a small amount. If you highlight our version 2 supplied, and then you say pin axis or show axis.
Sorry, which one? This one?
And then show axis. So it's shown on the axis amount.
Or you can just hold.
Oh, I see. Okay, but here it is with the axis.
So you can see that the amount of stable supply now it's very high, 2.8 billion, and it was even the beginning of current cycle, it was not legal, with 1.5 billion. It's a big market. So in this market, to get to condition when you can get high yield on your supply, there should be a very big demand. And I don't show it on this chart, but if you click or you do it by yourself, you will see metrics how much USDC is borrowed, and it's a lot. There are spikes on this specific dates when you see these rates. So it's another metric of overheated demand. So you can see it as our MakerDAO through the length of MakerDAO rate when it's 3x from Fed rate. It's very high, actually 2x already quite high. And this one, you see, highlight this column in the middle. It shows the rate which you get on your yield. Yeah. So the spikes, they go up to 20%. There are a few edge cases, I don't know, 40% on some day, whatever people get.
46, 48% actually. It's high right here.
Actually, it's already almost like a temperature of boiling water if we would get to 90. But I never saw 90 yet. But on a most established market, which is supposed to be quite stable, still we get these insane numbers. And there are charts on the chart there below, the same for, I think, on a compound, and then not only USDC, but it's the same picture. Once you start seeing these insane spikes, combine it with MakerDAO, high rate, let's say 8 or 10%, and we get there. So get ready for the top.
But what exactly do you consider insane spikes here? Because even on this chart, right, it was quite...
It was medium.
Already...
Yeah, that's why I mean, the first you look at MakerDAO, it's much more clean. Yeah. Here, you can use... you can narrow down, or let's say select the time between September and December, end of December.
Okay, so early September to...
Yes, translate this, yeah. And then you aggregate these spikes supply API, I think, select, highlighted. What is now 1 hour?
No. Yeah, it's currently 1 hour.
Can you select 4 hours? Then there will be less spikes. Okay. That shows a little bit more, or let's say less. I wouldn't go for 1 day. We can increase it by 12 hours. As I use this metrics anyway, not for intraday. It's for a balancing portfolio on week-to-week, month-to-month basis. So it does show consistent high irrational numbers. Anything above 10%, it's very high, or 12%. So if you close this and go to another one, there will be below, I think, what is below? USDC and compound. Yeah. So the same, anything about 10, 12%, we're getting to hot territory. Once again, of course, when condition of overheated money, you can see it here, but identifying the top, it's a more complex task. I personally combine it with a few other metrics, network activity, divergences, or network realized profit loss stuff, which you probably hear on our Friday streams. But based on this alone, you can already see more from money market perspective. Yeah. And then, if you extend it now, you can leave on the left side the same time frame, and you just go to the current condition. Or let's say you take one out last year.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. So that was a hot market, and now if you see, and here also leave, actually leave both of them, it's okay. So the blue line is amount of borrowed, the amount of debt people took, borrowed USDC from compound in this case, and this, I don't know, brown or not a green, another line. It's a current rate. So currently rate is around 4%, not another one. Compound supply API. Yes. And it becomes like flat. So market cool down. So the moment you see flat for 2 to 4 weeks, okay, we're nearing the bottom. Nearing the bottom demands, of course, more, the same like as the top. Conditions to be met. We can discuss them later now or in next webinar. But as long as you don't see a flat line, we're not at the bottom. That's forgiven. I've seen many times. There is no bottom until there is a flat line. If we see move mouse away. Price of Ethereum was going down when from December, actually even end of November, let's say. So at any time when there is some kind of recovery, we see spikes. So there is still hot demand. The money market is not hot. It's still warm, quite warm. And it was spiking up to 10%. We are not at the bottom. Now the last dump on beginning of February, finally we went. It's more or less flat since February. Yeah, since this time. You can consider, no, don't look in this way, when this line is exactly. So the moment you see it for some time, okay, line here in the bottom. Before that, you continue to look for bottom. There is none. As simple as that. This is the main usage. Yeah. There will be more detailed, maybe I'll leave Maksim to talk. Tkachuk, another Maksim. About level of liquidations, which we call blood on the street, which can give you even a bit shorter time frame setups. But if you manage in portfolio like I do, this is two things we need to take into our analytic framework. Without it, it's weak. With this, it's getting quite rich and deep. Extremes, hot money, hot money. When cold money, so yeah. So we're somewhere not far from bottom. But can take, maybe already, maybe take 1 or 2 weeks more. This we don't know. Timing is the most difficult part in crypto. I always advise people not to do timing. So there's a higher chance you will miss the timing, but yeah.
So in general, Maksim, it seems like it's fair to say that when borrowing gets high, it's a reflection of greed. And we see it here on compound, just like we saw on this Aave total supplied.
Everywhere.
And especially with this blue line, I do see that it correlates quite a bit with local tops. So in general, if you are bullish on the markets, you're actually rooting for this line to stay low or at least see sharp downturns as a good sign that we might have a relief rally because of the liquidations involved with this borrowing.
This is the second part. I think I will leave it Maksim to talk. So I'm not only talking, but I'm talking about only lending and borrowing. Actually, lending rate. You have stable. You bring in the platform how much you get. If you borrow, you have to pay even more. There is some margin. So I'm only talking so far about the lending rates. Yeah. But what you're saying is correct. Let's leave it to Maksim. There are two connected metrics: amount of debt, and it changes. Of course, there is increase, but it's very interesting to see when it starts decreasing because it comes with liquidations.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up a link that Maksim Kachuk sent. Let's give it a few seconds to load here. And maybe you, Maksim, can give a few words regarding what you look for on these charts, beginning with this DeFi total liquidations.
Yeah, sure. I'm not seeing the layout yet.
You don't see this on my screen?
There's just a blank page. Now it's loading.
Not good. It shows that it's sharing. Can anyone else see or not see this?
No, I see. Yeah.
I can see it.
Maksim, you're on a browser, correct? Or are you on mobile?
Yeah, it's all good now.
Okay.
Now it's all good. So, what we are tracking here, so Brian, if you just open the definition of this metric, because it's not a plain metric from our list, it's the one that combines several up.
Oh, you're talking about the
formula, yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
So we've got 5 elements here.
So this is basically tracking all the major lending borrowing protocols. And here I decided to keep it most simple and just look at the total amount of liquidations, because like how liquidation can happen is usually, well, not usually, it's always either somebody is borrowing stable coins against risk assets in order to loop the collateral and create some leverage, or they are borrowing the stable coin. No, they're putting the stable coin in, they're borrowing the risk asset, they're selling it, and it creates an on-chain short position. So that's always one of those two options. And usually just from historic data, the long liquidations are much more prevalent. So I just assume, that most of them are going to be long liquidations. And in some rare cases when short liquidations happen, it's usually very obvious because you can understand it by just looking at where the price moved. So there are just rare cases when price shoots up rapidly and there are some small amount of short liquidations happen, but absolute majority of the time it's going to be long liquidations because people are naturally more bullish. They're trying to create long positions, they're trying to profit from the market growing, so they create long side leverage, and that's the one that gets liquidated on market corrections. So yeah, you can close the definition, please. Let's see the chart again. So here you can see there are spikes. So this metric will normally stay flat, and in case the price sharply drops, there will be some spikes in the value. And usually the bigger the spike, the stronger the signal is, because this is literally the amount of money that has been liquidated from coin holders and from their positions. So it directly translates into the amount of pain that market participants are experiencing. And it works well in any stage of the market, I would say. But it's a bit different how you want to use it. Because if you believe that we are currently in a strong uptrend, then you can pretty much just add positions on the dips when you see the liquidations happen, because eventually the market is going to correct back up and it's going to carry your positions higher. But if you believe that we are somewhat in a choppy range, like we were in the summer of 24, or like we are right now, then you might also add some risk management to this. So, for example, how I see it is the level at which the liquidations happen usually creates some kind of a support. And if we are in unstable broader market conditions, then I would like to first see this support level hold, and only then enter some kind of position, maybe with the stop loss placed below this liquidation level. So in order, in case that the market doesn't hold, you still don't expose yourself to much risk. So this is how I personally see the value in this metric.
Yeah, it's interesting, Maksim, because I do see that there are, at least in the two biggest ones, there's very short relief rallies. In this case, we saw a minor bounce for about 3 weeks after the August 4th one. And this one was pretty instantaneous. There was a quick jump, and then we kind of resumed dropping. So is it fair to say that this would be more of like a short-term reaction based on what cycle we're in, as you said?
That really depends on again, as I said, the market conditions. So
right.
If you follow this this kind of guideline with placing the stop loss below the liquidation level and just sitting on your trade, basically, then in case of August 24, you would catch the entire huge move upwards, because since this big level of liquidations, the price never dipped below it. And in the case of recent, in February 25, you would just get stopped out. But I mean, it's kind of the price that you pay if you want to catch big moves. Sometimes you need to get stopped out. So you can play it any way you like. So of course you can try to catch those short-term relief rallies and be content with those small profits. But you also can use it in order to try and catch those big long-term bottoms and the subsequent big continuation upwards.
Makes sense. And I know you have some other metrics on this template as well. Do you want to talk about total repayments?
Yeah, repayments are cool.
Not really, to be honest, because yes, they are, but currently the issue with our data is that both new debt and repayments, they include something that is called flash loans. And flash loans are when the money is being borrowed and repaid in the same transaction. And they don't influence the market because it's not a directional bet. It's just being used in order to exploit some momentarily opportunity, like liquidate some position on MakerDAO, let's say, without having the necessary collateral for it, or like exploit some kind of arbitrage in the pools, something like that. But they don't stay, like this money doesn't stay in the market. And kind of to mitigate this issue and to see the valuable data, there is a panel below. So if you scroll down, even more down. Yeah, this one. So this is the total amount of stablecoin debt that is currently outstanding in those protocols. And here the idea is that it's kind of the confirmation for the liquidation signal. So if you imagine the liquidation being kind of the primary signal that is firing more often, but it can give some false positives. It would be probably really nice to overlay them.
Actually, what I see on the chart, it's very interesting. I'm talking about this double bottom, which was the final bottom on August 24. Yeah. So you see that the first one drop is liquidations. It was a very big pile of liquidations here. And the second drop, I think the way I know liquidation, can check it out. I think it's a repayment. These are people who saw the pain of liquidations, maybe did not impact them directly. Say, okay, I need to repay now before market goes even lower. Now let's go close this chart. Let's go check above if it is the case. Did we have liquidations on the second bottom? No, liquidations. Not much. It's very little, yeah? So this is huge one, yeah?
Yeah, it's the same August 4th date.
Yeah, so the second bottom, with August 25, 26, I don't know.
Oh, right here?
Yeah, September, okay. So liquidations are quite low, yeah? How much is it? Maksim, what is 100? Yeah, 11 millions. Okay, and then scroll down, did we have repayments?
No, the repayments is noisy because of the flash loans.
Yeah. Okay. So now I understand what you mean. Yeah, it's a kind of, if you look together on this chart, you see there is a noise of repayments, and if you compare it with the liquidations, which were low, but the amount of debt decreased on this 8th of September was quite substantial. Say, okay, so the amount of debt was decreased because of repayments. So here you cannot see it from this chart, but if you go down from total amount of debt, the previous chart, yeah, and you see, okay.
Total new debt.
Increase.
Yeah.
I think, Brian,
not this one, next chart. Yes. So it did increase almost, it is basically double bottom, both in terms of price and in terms of debt. So people were not probably liquidated, but rather paid back the debt, fearing that it will crash down and they will get liquidated, and also you need to pay 10%, I think, fee for liquidation. it's irrational. 10% not much if you suffered a lot. Still, that's way of thinking. But ideally, to support this assumption, would be indeed good to have clear repayment, which is not connected to previous flash loan borrowing. Actually, we can ask our team to make it.
What you can do, Brian, in order to make this better visualization is to, so if you close this panel for a second, and then you select in the list of the metrics on the left, if you select DeFi total liquidations from combined metrics. No, it's not, yeah, here. And you put it on the same panel as the total debt. Then what I'm trying to describe becomes more obvious, because, for example, in the early spring of 24, when we were first correcting from this 74 kind of level, you can see that there were a couple cases when there was some liquidations, right, on March 13th, 14th, I think, when this kind of
this
first
was the all-time high,
bottom.
March 13th.
Yeah, and a bit after that, there are those spikes of liquidations, but as you can see, the total debt is not really decreasing. So, and as it turned out, that wasn't the bottom of the correction. But when the liquidations are combined with the increase, or no, vice versa, it's when the liquidations are combined with sizable decrease in debt, that's when you tend to get more long-term bounces. So right here, when it really started to decrease, and the next one, that would be better entry points. And then especially on August 11. And you can see both the very, very large spike of liquidations combined with the decrease.
The August 5th one, right? Right here. Maksim?
We've lost him.
Uh-oh. Well, I presume he meant the August 4th and 5th right here, but yeah, I see what he's saying. You really want to find those bottom entry points from very large liquidations combined with a drop in DeFi stablecoin debt. If both elements are not true, it could be a bit of a false signal. So I see why it's important for both of these to be combined together.
And as a matter of fact, it has to be combined with what I said before, with the price for the money. Yeah. So if market gets really cooled down, no one is borrowing, you can get on your stables only 3-4%, and there was this level of liquidations. Yeah, you can assume, okay, nature is healing. Liquidations happened, and nature is healing. Yeah. So there is a set of conditions here. And exact conditions or exact protocols you take, it's a necessary detail, but important is to understand the framework or way of thinking. There is too much demand, too much gear. There will be one set of metrics visualizing this condition of the market. And when they're cooling down or cooled down, and there was big liquidations, blood on the streets, then there will be another set of metrics. And you, as a swing trader, if we don't want to do intraday trades, which I really don't advise anyone, then this is exactly what we should look for, among other on-chain metrics. But
yeah, there's one related metric that I think could help as well, and I'll just add it straight to the same chart. But total open interest has somewhat of a similar trajectory as total stablecoin debt. It's a bit different because we're looking at the amount of total open interest in Bitcoin specifically, and this is certainly an element of borrowing because we're looking at margin and leveraged trades, essentially how much in US dollars they are rising or falling at any given time. And generally speaking, when you see total open interest going way up, especially when price is going up, that's a sign that we're getting toppy. And you can see it got extremely high, over $35 billion in late November. And then it got above 35 billion again in December 18th, which was a big local top. And yes, we saw one more higher high squeaking out on inauguration date for Donald Trump. But for the most part, I think these are very good examples of when the crowd is getting a bit too leveraged, when they're getting greedy, essentially the opposite of blood in the streets, as Maksim said. And this is what you want to avoid if you're trying to find optimal times to take profit in particular. And you'll see the same kind of liquidation effects too. So you can see how the DeFi total liquidations align with Bitcoin's drop in total interest here and here. These are ideal points where you could, at least for the short term, buy in with a bit more confidence than usual. And the other thing that this goes well with, I'll take these off now, would be funding rate, which is another element of borrowing and lending. And I'll just add Binance by itself. What we're seeing here is the funding rate on Binance for Bitcoin with the Tether pair. It's the most common or highest volume of the funding rates out there. And it's obviously a lot of different bars. Binance provides data on this every 8 hours. So looking at the past year and a half is a bit too much. We'll just go to the past 3 months here for a moment. And here you can see moments where we had either very, very high funding rates, where there's a bias toward longing over shorting. And then over here, we see that there's actually more shorting than longing. That means the shorts are paying longs to go short. Generally speaking, the best times to get into any sort of crypto asset is when there's more shorting than there is longing, because those shorts, if they're liquidated, can essentially add rocket fuel, add momentum to that price rebound. And that's when you see a lot of bull rallies, even if it's a short-term one, really begin to take shape. There haven't been many moments where we've seen shorts, but they have happened over the past year. You can see, especially after the liquidations we went over in early August, there's a lot that really start to pop up because people didn't believe in this rebound right here. And all of this shorting ended up, not all of it, but many of these short positions ended up getting liquidated. And we saw an even bigger rise as a result until those shorts went away. You see another aspect right here where we go back down in early September, followed by a bundle of shorts. And then we see those shorts just act as momentum as they get liquidated to push prices higher. Just like if we go over here, we see the high longs acting as momentum in the negative trajectory to push prices further down due to all of the greed and the leveraged longs that were trying to take advantage of this rally that was taking shape as we hit the then all-time high above 70K back in March of 2024. So I wanted to point out that total open interest and funding rate are very helpful on top of these stablecoin borrowing metrics that Maksim Kachuk was pointing out.
Yeah. There are quite a few more ways how things can combine, but if we limit to kind of money market conditions, be it decentralized, centralized exchanges, then yeah, probably it's a very good start. Yeah, very good start. There are more detailed or nuanced metrics, exactly what is being liquidated, what Bitcoin, what BTC, and you can look even some specific conditions if shorts being built up or liquidated, but it's already too specific. It can only or should only be studied after the major, most important part of the framework is learned, understood and applied a few times. And apply a few times. And we can, if I understand correctly, we invited to webinar people only from our Sunbase Pro. So if there are any questions or suggestions or ideas or unclarity, can we communicate with Sunbase Pro? Okay. If there are any questions now, I think everyone can, there are not so many people anyway, so people can ask.
No questions in the chat at this time.
Good. Then we can, if there are no questions, then we can wrap it up.
Very good. Yeah, in short, I think that these metrics can be extremely helpful when it comes to not just looking at the sentiment or the on-chain activity of an asset, but when you're looking at the markets as a whole, really honing in on the borrowing going on and the liquidations going on can give an overview of how many people are really beginning to show greed when markets are going up, or how many people, as they say in crypto, get wrecked as a result of any sort of downturn. And these liquidations are healthy at the end of the day. You have to remember, we see liquidations all the time as a result of downturns, and usually some of the biggest rallies we've seen in the history of crypto have come when liquidations in large quantities occur all at once. Just to look at a few instances here really quick, this was a great example way back in 2021, where there were tons of DeFi total liquidations, and we bounced shortly after that. This one was more of a short-term one in 2022. This was literally the bottom over the past 2.5 years, back in November 2022. Of course, this was under the circumstances of the FTX collapse that had occurred at the beginning of the month. So, of course, there's going to be liquidations here. But even right here, in July of 2024, right before we saw that first week of August, final bottom, that's when we really began to take off. So I think there's a lot of value. Same thing right here, total repayments in August 2024, the largest by far, and we immediately surge after. So new debt, same thing. There's just a lot you can gather from this. We left the link in the chat, so feel free to copy and bookmark that. And yeah, I think we covered everything pretty well here, Maksim. Do you have any final thoughts?
The famous final words. No, it's was good as a starter. We used to do webinars in the very beginning of Santiment, I remember, 2018, 19. And we became too busy with building stuff. But now we're kind of coming back with sharing what we start to use and practiced and identified for ourselves as useful. We can show practical examples. And there are a few more. All those divergences and VRVs and long-term setups with mental anesthesia. There are quite a few things, as we've got through 2 cycles relatively fast. Yeah, 21, 22, 25, 2 cycles past. So we can continue with webinars, I don't know, 1 time a month, just to pick up a topic. So we can wait, or you can wait for more. But this one is important. This one is important because we use it quite a few times for spot bottom conditions, and it's kind of flashing something. Must be going close to it, getting close to it. My opinion, Maksim probably will not agree, or sometimes agrees. But if we happen one more heavy liquidations, it will definitely be okay. Not definitely, very likely will be the bottom. We've seen an up liquidation, so one more, and no one will like to participate in the market anymore, which is good.
necessary pain in order to see more growth. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining. Yes. Thank you to the Santiment team for setting this up with us, and we will see you on the next webinar.
Max Bartel, raise the hand.
Please.
Max, what was your
Sorry,
hand?
I meant to clap.
Oh. Okay. Now you
I get those two confused too, raising hand versus clapping.
Okay.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.